What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Seasons Guys podcast. Tonight we have a very special guest slash band member joining us.
The watchmaker.
Jeremy Ray! Insert celebration music.
Oh, yeah, that's Oh, it's not working. I got the music.
What the fuck?
Oh, free version.
Uh,
Come on down.
Come on down. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Meh.
Go on, man. How are you?
We're tired old men.
Tired old men. The season guys.
Yeah.
I finally made it on.
Yeah, we've been talking about you on the last couple episodes. We're like kind of teasing it out that you're going to be coming on soon.
Oh, and we got another special guest.
Whoa. Wait a minute. 4 people on the pod?
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, he's all blurry.
Yo, there he is.
Or is that just your hair?
Pixelated.
He's still running dial up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes? Oh, okay, cool. All right. What up?
What up? What up?
The 4 amigos.
Yeah. The 4 amigos. Well, welcome, Enzo. Another special surprise.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Got the full package here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it. The way it should be.
Very nice. So, what are we talking about tonight?
We just want to stare at you guys.
You had an interesting topic around recording that we wanted to chat through tonight and get some perspective on, and where we are with the digital age, and then also your thoughts on, I think we were saying something about contemporary music and the approach and how we have adapted to that. And
no, it's definitely changed since we first started. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What was it, Sonar, that we were using in the very beginning?
Sonar, yes.
Well, actually, it really just began with, I think we started to do like tape recordings, and then we realized that wasn't gonna cut it, and then we tried to install some program onto my very, 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 very old computer. And
I was gonna say, you guys gave me a cassette tape when I first came down.
Yeah. Well, that was back then. I mean, really, like, aside from having I don't know, anything really to record with, that was the only way you could get things across. Not to age ourselves here, but I mean, we just did...
cassette tape is.
Do I know what it is? Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, continue.
Have I ever used it? No.
Was digital recording a thing, like when you were like younger, probably like in your teens?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the Focusrite was huge. Yeah. Like promoted everywhere for like laptop recording. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you had like right in the beginning, not the beginning, but like the mid stages of it, I feel like, probably.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah. Well, and now it's kind of just crazy what people can do. You introduced me to that boy what person, whatever. And those, like, it's all, first of all, it's all AI for the voices, which is just kind of absolutely crazy to me. It's like you got Plankton, you got SpongeBob in there. Who's that? Like, so I'm not like a huge SpongeBob person. Who is that, like, night person or whatever? I think he was in He's in one of the songs that I listened to from that Boy What thing. It was one of the better ones.
The knight.
He looks like a knight. He looks like the only like real person.
Oh.
Is it from SpongeBob?
I mean, I would assume so, since it was
I'll Google
it was in the same song, but he was singing with Plankton.
Oh.
SpongeBob Knight. Oh, it's just SpongeBob dressed as a knight.
Yeah, I don't know if you looked. I'm trying to think of what the song would be called. It's driving me nuts right now. Anyways, point being, it's all AI voices, and like this is where we've gotten to, is that like you can like literally create an AI voice and have it sound decent just by having like software. I mean that's nuts. I mean, it's not good nuts. It's not bad nuts either. It's just kind of, it's interesting. Like I was doing so for my work, we do like little Halloween videos. And I used a AI voice for the whole narration of it, and you can just like find that for free on I think it's Narrakeet.com, and you can just like come up with any like AI voice you want. I mean, it's dialogue, but it's still like, that's just nuts to me.
I was wondering what that Narrowkey thing was. I saw something came through the inbox for that.
Yeah, so so they allow you I think like 20 different recordings for free, and then they start to charge you. So I just decided that I was going to use a different email to kind of cheat the system a little bit so that I didn't have to pay for it. But because otherwise it was like $6.99 a month, and I was like, that's stupid. But
jeez.
But anyways, so yeah, like things have just come like really, really, really far since the very beginning of where we started, at least. And like, I mean, bands are like fully recording like their own stuff. Like, I think, does Fame on Fire record all their stuff on their own? I feel like the singer
They do.
does all that stuff.
I know that because they worked on Dark Divine stuff, and I saw he was talking about it, and he has his own studio and everything. And they do everything pretty much.
So like, I mean, you really can just like bypass the whole studio experience if you wanted to, which is in turn an easier way for you to be able to afford recording. And by afford, I mean, I take that very lightly because I bought a $5,000 computer to do like, our stuff or whatever for future stuff. But in the grand scheme of things, $5,000 is probably like, a couple recordings. It's kind of crazy what you can accomplish with a little bit of knowledge. Obviously there's some skill that comes along with it. Like there's guys that we admire, like who are some recording artists that we admire.
Which one?
Kyle Odell.
Oh, you
Bob
mean,
Rock?
yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm talking about like actual like recording studios and like those engineers and stuff like that we.
Odell, yeah.
Kyle Odell has been putting out like pretty much everything I've been listening to as of lately. I'm trying to think. Obviously, we got our stuff mixed by David Bennett back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? I know that I'm missing someone. There's someone that I've been really what is it called?
I know who you're talking about. It's the what's the last name? I don't want to butcher it. He worked on Five Finger Death Punch. He's worked on. It's the father and son duo, right?
Yes. What is it? What's their
Shane
names?
Turco.
Kane Churko, thank you.
Yeah, Kane Churko.
Yeah, he did a lot of really cool stuff.
And Kevin, yeah.
I mean, but the sheer fact is that, like, you know, bands who are, you know, up and coming, you know, they can't always afford to go to these people, even if they are, you know, a little bit more on the affordable side. It's just tough. And I feel like things have come so far with recording that you can literally just do it from your house and like actually make a decent recording.
I mean, we go back as far as not Silent Season. I mean, we've recorded on analog. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying that. I mean, I know I have. I don't know if you have, Jeremy, but
We've chatted about that when we were in Never Hide, because he
yeah,
had the tape machine.
that's right. We were literally. The cool thing about analog, you get some sounds like the warm sounds and stuff, but it was a pain in the butt to have to like edit because you would have to cut tape and all that stuff. Like that's really old school, you know.
You had to cut
Well,
tape?
analog.
I did all by myself.
Oh.
Analog isn't necessarily all, you know, just like outboard stuff. It's, you know, you can do analog and digital with, like, you know, compressors and different stuff like that. But all that stuff gets really expensive. And I guess that's another thing too, is that, like, um all that stuff, like, is easily modeled by, like, all these companies into digital form. Like, there's like probably like 3 companies that have like a distressor, which is used for um uh anything from vocals to drums to, you know, just basically anything you can think of. That's a popular one, and they have like models that are like $100, and then they have the actual analog thing, which is probably like 1,500.
Mm-hmm. Not
There's
bad.
So
those
it's like,
YouTube videos too of like comparing them.
yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty spot on.
Pretty close, yeah.
So, like, it's just kind of amazing to me. And I just thought it was interesting, like, to talk about, because I feel like these days, like, everything is kind of like so easily accessible for everyone. But like when we first began, I mean, we were going to studios to do all kinds of stuff. And, like, you know, doing it like all like the normal way, if you will, you know.
Like flying
But
out
like,
to Florida.
yes, there was that.
Let me ask you
Um,
something. Let me ask you something on the flip side of things. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute. What do you think are some of the challenges that exist with digital and where we are today?
um, some of the challenges. Let's see. I mean, there's so many different options for things that you can use, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but then it also becomes a daunting thing. Like, you know how many plugins I have,
Mm-hmm.
like an unreal amount. And then at the end of the day, it's just like, what do you use? Like, what gives you the best sound? What gives you the sound that you're striving for? Um, you know, I think that that's probably one of the biggest challenges, is like, what do I use, you know? And also, like, it's all this, like, I mean, like, so for me personally, like, I'm a self-taught person. I mean, I learned from like YouTube, and I learned from different recording people. I've taken a couple courses on different things, but at the end of the day, you know, everyone kind of just says, like, once you hear the sound that you want, you know, you kind of just deliver it. But um it's just it's like a very daunting thing to, like, to try to learn as well in the digital realm these days, because everyone's telling you, oh, this plugin does like the best job at doing this, and like this plugin does the best job at doing this, and then you're just like, well, which one is it? And what it really comes down to is what do you personally think sounds the best? Because I can tell you right now, like for guitar tones, for us, like I've gone back and forth between like companies like Neural DSP and STL Tones and like a million other ones. And right now, for the song that we are recording, the STL Tones Josh Middleton one is like kicking all the other ones' ass. Like it sounds pretty damn real to me. But like if I were going for another, song, it might be different. So I guess it's good to have a variety, but it's also kind of like a daunting challenge,
That's kind of like what Periphery did in their documentary. They did like the same riff over and over, and then they had like the Axe FX desktop version, the Axe FX rack version, and then they had all these other tones. Pick which one they like most, and they had to do that for each song and each part and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
It really matters, like stylistically, like what you're going for too. Like I said, like I could pick a different like complete sound for another, their song, whatever. Maybe not necessarily with drums. I feel like you're probably trying to keep pretty consistent with that, but for guitar and stuff like that, I feel like you could probably divulge into a lot.
Now, do you think, changing the question here a little bit, going back to challenges, do you think now that everyone has access to these same tools, like a lot of bands and artists, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great talent out there and they're utilizing it to the best of their ability and it's sounding great, especially in the rock world. But do we feel like with these tools, it's created more competition and it's definitely made it
Absolutely.
harder for us to kind of cut through along with the other bands out there today?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like that was a major evolution in the rock slash metal or any genre really for that matter. But it was also like a downfall too because all these people who may not have been able to get these sounds are now like able to get whatever sounds they want because they're spoiled with all these different like options that they have, you know what I mean? So I feel like I mean there is a little bit of being able, I feel like you have to be able to obviously like write a decent song, which not everyone has the capability to do, but like um but at the same time, like if you're looking for, if it's like pure sounds whatever that you're trying to go for, like everyone has the same like equal availability to like get that at a more affordable price than they ever were able to before. um I mean, like, yeah, they have to have like a decent computer that could probably be able to handle all of it, but I mean that's also not necessarily hard if you were to like custom build like a PC or something like that, or whatever. I mean, and even you could probably still get away with whatever you could if you knew what exactly what you were doing. There's just like different ways for everyone to get that sound. So yeah, no, it is more competitive because everyone is equally able to get stuff at a better price than they ever were probably in the past.
You can even ask AI to make a song for you.
Yeah, I mean, literally, yeah, I saw that too. I was looking at something online and I saw that like you literally can like just have AI make you a song and then like you can get it like rights free and everything. So
Jeez.
like you could copy whatever AI did. And I feel like that's just ridiculous, but I mean, I guess desperate times, whatever. I I wouldn't do it, but that is an option.
Yeah, for me, and I know Brendan, we've talked about this, and I actually might have mentioned this to the other guys, but like I love the technology. I struggle with it sometimes though, because I still feel like there needs to be obviously that human element, right? Like to write a really great song, you gotta be if you're in a band, you gotta be able to work together to write that great song. So it has also that organic vibe, so it tells a story. And I think sometimes technology, while it's great and it definitely helps with a lot of the stuff you just mentioned, Jeremy, I do think it's disruptive as well. You know, any technology, not even the music, all the other stuff that's going on right now. So I think there's a fine balance for both. Like if you're using it carefully, it could be a great thing. But I think using it to push overboard a little bit too much, um, you start becoming, I feel like, a little bit robotic in a sense. I mean, this is just my opinion. I mean, I truly think there's a balance to it, and also, you know, to the studio thing, like going back, yes, it's definitely the competition has increased. I also feel like a lot of people feel like they don't necessarily need to work with a producer or an engineer anymore. Like you said, a lot of people think they could just write and go with it. That doesn't necessarily hold true uh for other artists, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, some can get away with a hit song, but you know, I through personally, I think there's still a need, like you mentioned, the Churkos, the Bendits,
Yep.
and you still need an element of that to get an outside perspective to help lead the charge in a sense.
No, you definitely do. I mean, like, and I feel like if we had, the budget, whatever, I feel like we would be going to, some of those people to help write songs or whatever. Because I honestly, that is also a challenge of writing songs, if you will, is that I feel like you become so intimate with your sound that you don't necessarily think outside of the box enough. Um, and I feel like that's where a producer like comes in and they're like, hey, like that's a good idea, but like try it this way.
Hmm.
And like they'll get you to like kind of think, in their headspace or whatever, and their headspace might be completely different from what yours is,
Yep.
which is that's where that organic element I feel like is most valuable. I do think if I were to go back in time to, some of our other songs that we've written over the years, whatever, and I had the technology that I have right now, oh man, I mean, it could have been very different. But I guess to your point too, like you do need, obviously you need the human element of it, right?
Hmm.
I think that the best thing that these tools these days have given us, I think, are is the fact that like I can find this like synth sounds that like gives me an idea or something like that, and it leads me into the direction of like where I want to go with something. Um, Versus like before, like all I had at my for my tools was my guitar and or like my bass or whatever I was using, and like just kind of riffed off that. Versus like sometimes you get like a different feeling from these virtual instruments and stuff like that, and it kind of like gives you a vibe of where you want to go. I watch a lot of YouTube channels and stuff like that. And I watch a lot of like different things about like writing methods and how people are starting. And like there was this one dude that I was watching, I forget what his name was, but he was talking about like how synths have basically like changed the way that he writes stuff, because like if he's like having writer's block or something like that, like he can literally like go to like a synth and like get like a starting idea, and then like kind of like start to like riff off of that, which I feel like is also in turn where like music is headed these days. Like if you listen to all these bands on Sirius XM, Octane or whatever, and or just bands that we listen to, um that are up and coming, like they're all using some sort of like synthesizer in some way.
Mhm.
And it's like it's very much in the 80s where like like synthesizer became like the huge thing or whatever. Like it came out of nowhere, but then everyone started to use it, right? Like yeah, and then you had like the synthesized drums, like the bum 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 bum. I don't know if that was synthesized, but it had this like massive sound, you know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
bands were just like started to use all that kind of stuff, and like it's kind of uh it evolves and it devolves, but like it also evolves in the sense that like now there's just an unreal amount of sounds that you can use.
Infinite, yeah. I'm thinking when you mentioned those bands like 70s to 80s, I think like the Cars, for example, they were doing a lot of those sounds that they kind of kicked that off. A lot of people like, what are they doing with all the those crazy sounds, you know? But yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hear you. It's like come back. It's cyclical in a sense, but it's obviously digital format these days. I was gonna say, why don't you share with the audience how many plugins you have?
Oh man, I think over the years I've probably got into, I don't know, several thousands, which is crazy. But you know what? That's also part of the problem, because I think earlier in the conversation I was talking about like how like people are like, this one sounds awesome, and then you're like, oh really, like I need to check that out, and then like you kind of like fall into the hype of like what you think sounds awesome, but it might not actually be the most awesome like plugin in your arsenal, but you need to know because so and so said that it was awesome. And that's where like all these like YouTubers and stuff like make their money, because they're literally like either paid to say like, oh, like this and this and this is awesome, or they're given the plugin for free, and they're like, and they try it out, and some people have like their honest opinions about stuff, and like they'll share that and say like, hey, like just letting you know, this is my honest opinion about it. Like I was given this plugin for free, but like all thoughts and opinions are mine. um but like in the end, like yes, they were given it for free and they didn't have to pay $100 for it, and they are like like giving, or they're telling people that it is good or whatever, but it might not be the thing you need, because honestly, in the end, the thing you need might be something that you probably already had.
Mm,
I was gonna say, do you ever just get the free trials and try it out, or you just flat out buy
No,
them?
I do get the free trials, but I feel like that's also part, like what I was saying before, like the opinion of these people, it also weighs into the factors of you actually like buying the plugin. So like you might not have like had any perceived notion about like the plugin at all before, but because so and so said so, now it's like kind of in your head. They got in there, they know what to do to get in there to like make you buy it eventually, even if you get the free trial. um and like honestly, when it comes down to guitar like sim plugins, like it's gotten so good with like how like things sounds. It's really really scary, but like when it comes down to it, like 99% of them sound exactly alike.
That Line 6 is
And
dope
like,
though.
I mean, like, sure, like Line 6, Neural DSP, anything, like they all have a very similar sound. You can achieve the exact same sounds from one plugin to another if you put the work into it. And I feel like that's what it comes down to. Like, there's a lot of YouTubers who are saying that, like, I think, like, ever hear of Buster Odom?
Sounds
that's
familiar.
He's
I
a
have
he's a he's a great guitar player, and he's also like a producer slash engineer. And he does like a lot of like heavy music, but like he uses like the old Pod Farm like stuff, whatever,
Mm.
and like to get like his sounds, and like people are like seeking these sounds, And there's this program that's out right now. It's called NAM, and it basically is like the Kemper and or AXFX and or Neural DSP, like that is free to use. So you can download this thing, and people will emulate whatever gear they have at home.
Oh,
So if
yeah,
you
yeah.
have, and it's for free.
Yeah.
But you can get all these sick tones for free. You don't have to pay $1 to get it.
Yeah.
And that's
Crazy.
like it is crazy. I mean, like I don't have it myself, but because I have so many things at the moment that I'm just like I don't need anymore. But if I were to be like a musician who, like didn't have any of that stuff and I wanted to get a good tone, like that's 100% the way I would go about it. You can literally get any profile you want for any amp, for any cat, for any pedal for free.
Enzo's downloading it right now.
I'm already playing it. Sounds great.
But I mean, I guess that goes. Oh, I mean, like obviously your preference, Brendan, is Line 6. But why specifically is that your preference?
Because, well, I mean, I had a Line 6 in high school. It was Veta 2,
Mhm.
and that sounded great. And it was like all computer and all that, and built into I think it was 212, into a 212 speaker. But then when we saw a 12-foot Ninja, and I was like, those guitar tones are sick.
Mhm.
And then as soon as I got the first version, the HD 500X, there was one guitar tone that as soon as I was trying them out, I was trying all the factory presets. Like, nope. As soon as I landed on, it's called Panama, so it's like a 5150, like Eddie Van Halen's. As soon as I landed on that, I was like, that's it. That's my guitar tone. And then when I got the Helix, same exact thing. I was like, where's Panama? Found it. I'm like, yep, that's it. That's the guitar tone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that is, I mean, despite the fact that I think that you hype Line 6 up more than anyone I've ever known.
Yeah.
It's actually a decent it's a decent opinion because you heard it live, you saw someone actually use it in action, and like you took that tone and you made it also your own too. But like 90% of the people out there who buy these like amp modelers and stuff like that, they have no idea what it's actually going to end up sounding like. They're just like, this person uses it and they say it's good, so I'm going to go with that tone.
That's usually me telling people.
So Enzo jumped on board. Enzo, what do you think of Line 6?
I think it's pretty good. I remember when I was a kid, and every guitarist that I know at my age had this experience of getting their first amp, and it was a Line 6 Spider 4.
Jesus.
And those amps were, when I was a kid, sounded amazing. But now, not so much. But that kind of led me to believe that Line 6 wasn't that great. But yeah, over time, I kind of, heard of things like the Helix and other stuff like that. And then, I had my other like iPad rig kind of break down on me at one of our shows. So then I decided I'll pick up the Line 6 Pod. Honestly, it sounds really good. I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I mean, it definitely it sounded a lot better when I first heard it, after like hearing your previous rig or whatever. And like that was your rig is it like it's not obviously the flagship one, but it's the one that's like
The
the
affordable.
the light version, if you will.
Yeah,
But like you're achieving tones that you could achieve with the flagship model.
pretty much. Yeah.
I mean, that is in itself is crazy. And that's another thing too, is like companies are like literally outdoing themselves by making smaller models.
Oh
So
yeah,
like even Neural DSP just came out with their Nano Cortex, which
yeah, I saw
is
that.
like their smaller, quad cortex or whatever. Because and so did Kemper too. Kemper just came out with a smaller Kemper too. What is happening?
They're holding a crate.
God, yeah, great voodoo.
Blue Voodoo.
Or
But like
and it was going for
even like the Line 6 Helix floorboard, like they made it so much easier to come with a backpack. So all you have
Yeah.
to bring is your floorboard, a guitar, and it goes to the front of house and it sounds like a mic'd up cab.
Yeah.
And you get to choose your head. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, so go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say the beauty in all this, which so many guitar players will hate me for saying this, but like I'm so happy I don't have to bring like a cab and like everything to like a show. I hate that. I can't stand that. I sold my amp, and I will probably never buy an amp to bring to a show again.
I've been trying to do that for years.
Yeah.
Well, see, here's the thing: is like it makes it well before it didn't make sense because I feel like it was a foreign concept to a lot of these people who were doing like the mixing board and stuff like that. Like it was new. It was new like around the time of 12-foot Ninja. However, now it's become more of a accepted thing. Like, hey, like I'll just send you the DI of my floorboard or whatever, or like whatever you have, and like they can make your whole entire like sounds just like you have a cab right behind you, you know. But like in a practice setting setup, it's a little bit different because like while we have in-ear system for everyone who doesn't know. So we all have in-ears and we can listen to each other through them. So that way we have a better idea of what's going on. There's click tracks involved and stuff like that too. Not for me, but like I follow everyone else anyways. But that in itself is huge. But I guess what I'm getting at is that like the whole like setup is just so surreal. But like when you're in your practice space, like you kind of need that sound a little bit. Like it fills up the room a little bit more versus when you go to like a venue or something like that, they have all these like crazy I forget what the good PA systems are or whatever, like QRX, what is it, QRX,
QSC. Yeah.
Yeah.
QSC.
So yeah, they have all that stuff. So it makes it sound instantly good. But like when you're in a practice space, like cabs are a little necessary. But like yeah, you can go to a gig now and you can just bring your floorboard or whatever for your guitar rig and you can rock out. That's amazing.
And then you
Like
can
who
even
wants
send
to bring a 412 to a show? No one.
Yeah, and you don't even need any. There's a lot of these modelers. They have a separate output. You can go to your own monitor.
Yeah.
Like Line 6 had one. Then there's the Head Rush. Like all these monitors that you can get, personal like floor monitors, and you just have to bring that to a show. And it's like that's it. Like oh, can't see. Not that big.
Yeah. Well, so on a similar subject, but not really, I sold my $1,500 bass recently. Like it was Ibanez BTB, and it was a monster. And I decided instead to go with the Submission Audio plugins for recordings. Over a $1,500 bass, I decided to use a probably at the time $100 plugin. That's crazy to me because I feel like for recording purposes for bass, I mean bass is a tricky thing. You have guitars that have Evertune now, which was my biggest gripe with guitars. It was so annoying to record guitars when it would always fall out of tune in some sort of instance. Like that was, do you remember how many times we used to tune like at like, you know, recording studios that we went to in the past and like just stop like in the middle of a song just because you had to tune up? Like that, I mean, like obviously you guys use, you know, your guitars that don't have all that stuff, and that's completely fine. But like for recording purposes, it saves so much time to not have to tune, just because of the Evertune. And I think they are actually coming out with basses that will eventually have that too. But the thing is like I realized that I could get better bass tones from my $100 plugin than I could a $1,500 bass. Like that's nuts to me.
I would say user error.
User error. I would say it's a matter
You
of
slapping the bass.
I would say it's a matter of tuning versus not tuning. And also the thing is too is like I was trying to go the way of like natural tuning, as far as like I wasn't using any sort of pitch shifting. So I was dropping down a bass to drop G. And if you ever heard a bass and like actual drop G, like not guitar drop G, but bass drop G,
Same as me farting.
It's almost inaudible. And then trying to like tune that bass to sound, you know, to sound good. It was really crazy to me. That like I was getting better bass tones just from using that plugin than using my bass that I had bought. So I just had to sell it because I was just like, what am I doing? I'm not doing anything with this. But yeah, technology has really gotten pretty crazy as far as like the capabilities of what you can do. And now they're starting to come up with AI voices, so I'll just be replaced soon anyways. So bye everyone who cared about my voice.
We're gonna get James Hetfield. Yeah.
It's gonna have a robot doing my voice.
We won't mention names, but we did have a fan, like a really interesting person that was sampling voices from other bands, AI style, and putting it on top of. You can find that on YouTube. We filed a complaint about that, but we don't want to get in trouble. So that happened, but that's pretty crazy. And if anything, I'm guessing, Jeremy, someone took your voice already and applied it to some songs out there. You never know.
Is that still up?
I believe so. There's many versions.
Yeah, YouTube never even bothered to do anything about that, so that's interesting.
Jeez.
Yeah. Anyway, while on the topic.
No, I feel like that's a good point. I feel like that it becomes a problem. It becomes a problem when your creativity is being cinched out by someone who can like literally, well, not that their music matters or whatever, because they're not doing anything with it, or they're not even, you know, relevant on the scale. I feel like it's crazy. It's crazy that someone could do that.
Right. Rip off a voice. Yeah.
Like it takes a certain level of creativity to program a bass to like do, you know, like notes and stuff like that. Like you actually have to like, you know, do your manual effort to do that. But like It's not the same thing for like an AI voice.
Right.
Like,
Unique to a person, obviously. Yeah.
I remember we used to joke about like how they would create an easy vocal when I was talking about Easy Drummer back in the day.
Don't they have that?
No,
Oh, I thought they
that's
did have their
AI.
own.
That's AI
Well, like,
knocking at the door.
well, like an easy vocal like mix. I think they have
Well,
that.
they have an easy mix, which is just
Oh,
essentially like mixing tools or whatever. Which I have the second version of that, and I never really. I mean, there's a couple of cool things that I still use, but that was kind of a money trap right there. But yeah, no, I mean there's a solution for everything. But it comes down to creativity in the long run. So back to the subject of the competition and stuff like that, like I feel like you have to take not a grain of salt, but you have to take like a portion of each, idealism, if you will, and kind of, try to make the best music possible using whatever tools you have, because it is a competition now. Like there are plenty of people who can create things, organically. There are plenty of people who can create things, on their own. There are plenty of people who can use a combination of those things. Like it's been a game changer. So it's been difficult. It's been difficult to have that realization in your head, because it plays a game in your head too when you're trying to create like such and such band is, using such and such thing. So, maybe I should be using that too, or whatever, But like,
I feel like that's bands are becoming homogenized though due to that, in a sense. If you listen to bands that are using a lot of samples and stuff, you obviously hear a lot of similarities amongst the songs. Whereas if I think of bands like Slipknot, some of the old school bands that were doing the organic thing, you can tell that but some of the stuff was outside of the box. And I feel like some of the newer stuff today, hear a band, you're like, oh, I just heard that from band. You know what I mean?
yeah, is someone beeping?
beeping. Yeah.
Hear that?
Oh, it was Enzo.
You
He
beeping?
So,
just
what do you think about that though? What's
Well,
evolution
I,
or
I do agree. Like I think that to a certain degree, like I feel like like this is what I'm thinking, right? Like you have all these tools, but at the same time, the organic part really comes in with the song building.
mm-hmm.
You can obviously tell, a talented artist versus a not talented artist. There's plenty of rappers out there who are making like ridiculous amounts of money who I'm like, you guys are a joke. You guys
Yeah.
are an absolute joke, and I have no idea how you're making this much money doing what you're doing, and it really like irritates me, because like you have actual talented people who are trying to make like actual music, and they can't even do that because they're oversaturated.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so it comes down to the creativity in the long run. Like, yeah, like I feel like we live in an age where I think we have to come to the realization that you're not necessarily going to be able to do one or the other. You kind of have to, come down the middle somehow. um I mean, you could, you can make a song either way. Like if you make a song completely with, synthesizers and things that are all, like in the box or whatever, like you can do that. It's more of a pop thing at that point, but you can do that. You can create a song with all instruments, and that's cool too. But like I think that music has evolved. I feel like I feel like there's an audience too, right? I feel like the audience matters in the sense that like if someone likes a little bit of poppy stuff, and someone likes a little bit of heavy stuff, and they cross that, like their audience automatically expands in some way, because the audience that likes the poppy stuff, who might not like the heavy stuff, will be interested in something that has both in there, and vice versa. Like the audience that likes the plain out heavy stuff, but here's like a little bit of poppiness to it, like might be like, hey, like that's still a catchy beat, like that's still whatever. So I feel like that's really where they're trying to meet. I feel like pop has 100% taken over labels. I feel like pop has taken over the radio stations. Like, how many radio stations do we actually have that are not, like Sirius XM, or like other, metal injected or whatever it is? How many other radio stations are there out there that are actually, playing metal and rock?
Very few.
Very
They've
few.
taken over Spotify too. They're like the highest paid people for Spotify.
Which is
Pop.
Pop.
They get paid more per stream than any of the
Yeah,
genre.
that's
And
right.
So really what it comes down to is that I feel like these bands are trying to meet in that headspace. I feel like they're trying to appeal to a larger audience by incorporating these things that maybe bands wouldn't necessarily be more apt to do. Like if you think about early Bring Me the Horizon or something like that, or you think about early Memphis Mayfire, or you think about early bands who are heavy bands,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden have adapted all of these things into their music, and now are actually showing something for it, because they quote unquote sold out, but they really didn't sell out. They just decided, hey, I want to actually further my music career and like capture a different audience. So they decided, hey, like I'm going to start incorporating things that have to do with pop, things that have to do with things, that other people are listening to, branch out a little bit. And you know what? It's not necessarily selling out. It's just smart, because they're doing well because of it. Maybe there is a sort of oversaturation with that right now, but I feel like that's the way that rock and metal are really surviving right now. I mean, like I really haven't heard a ton of bands who haven't been using anything that are new these days,
Mm-hmm.
and like breaking out in any. I know that was a long-winded answer to the question, but like I do feel like it's meeting somewhere in the middle, so that you have more platforms to appeal to people.
Yeah, I mean, one could argue that the same thing happened even before the digital age in the early 2000s with the whole new metal movement. I mean, the bands, even though they were organic and they had their own parts, I mean, a lot of the stuff was sounding the same with the drop tune guitars and all of the rapping and stuff. So, I mean, every genre goes in cyclical movements, and they have like a thing going on, and all bands usually follow if it's successful. So, like, I mean, you're right. I mean, the thing is, some of the newer bands have to incorporate this the technical side of things, just because that's where we are as a music industry, and what's being put out there today, and how music has evolved. So one could it can be argued both ways. Like, same thing happened before the digital age, it's happening now. It's just that we have a little bit more tools at our fingertips to do more with creating the songs.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this stuff here. I was just looking up. Let's see. So AI rock music generator.
Oh,
Yep. All these sites. People on Reddit asking what's the best one. You got YouTube videos.
crazy.
And just keeps going on and on.
It's cool, but also scary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, like, just not even in music, like AI with everything else. there's just like there's no really way to certify some of the material that gets created through AI. They're still trying to figure out a governance of it with not to get political here, but like in the government stuff like that. It's I see it at my work, so it's just like you can create some cool things, but like the whole voice ripping off of voices, that doesn't necessarily mean that's someone takes Jeremy's voice and puts it on another song. That's not Jeremy's work.
You see that? You see that robot?
Which one?
Oh
Next
no,
one?
there's some. The what?
Elon Musk's sex robot.
Yes. No, not the sex robot. No, but then some guy like saw it and videotaped. Took a video on his phone of him walking up to the robot and just like starting conversation. Oh, how you doing? He goes, I'm good. How you doing? What's your name? And like just it had like a regular conversation with them.
It's creepy, man.
Skynet.
It's creepy.
Skynet or Genesis.
Skynet. That was legit. I remember that.
I think that the thing to take from all that too is that like whether you fight it or whether you don't, I think that it's going to be a part of our reality. Like all these things that we've been talking about, as far as like, emulations and easier methods to do things and being more accessible. It's just part of the future. It's not something you can necessarily fight. You just kind of have to, not necessarily like converge to, but like I feel like at the same time you're not doing something for yourself by going against it. You know what I mean? You kind of have to, like, when I listen to a new band, I listen to their ideas, I listen to their thought process, and I take something from it. Like I strive to listen to new music all the time to kind of like see what is the standard, if you will, of things. Because I feel like if you live in the past with stuff, I mean, you definitely like can still obviously create from that, but I feel like things are moving in a direction, and like you have to kind of stay in that direction, because if you decide to defer from that direction, I guess you could either hurt or you can help yourselves, but it really just still comes down to creativity and all that. Like that Boy What guy who made, all those AI things or whatever, the voices or whatever. At the end of the day, he is talented. He is talented. He is a talented person because he still came up with all the guitar parts, which he wrote. He wrote all like, the drum parts and stuff. He programmed all the drums, whatever. But like at the end of the day, he still made catchy stuff that people were drawn to.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I just feel like, what's the point of fighting it when you know that people like it?
So we should start a boy band.
I don't think that's what I said.
So what you're saying is,
no.
no.
I guess, like I said, I think it's very much, it's gonna be a split for rock metal. I feel like there's got to be a balance, if you will.
I do like the Bring Me the Horizon reference earlier, because like the balance, I do think, I forgot what the record was with what was that song, Honey Tea or whatever the hell it was called, and that record where they went really with the samples, it was all samples, and it like threw everyone off because they weren't obviously them for Sepulturnal, like the heavy stuff, but then they went completely in this new sample route. But then recently, after COVID, they were dropping all those singles, and then they started picking up the heavy stuff, the old school sound a little bit. So I agree. I think it's a mix. You can't fight what's out there for tools and the sound that you're trying to create. But I also think why not? You can give the fans some nostalgic sounds, but it also has to be contemporary. You got to balance it with what's happening. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in the shuffle. You can't You can't be outdated. You got to adapt the times, but you also can give the people what they love within a mix of the different songs that you write. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, even in Supernatural, that was their most commercial album,
Mhm.
like as of that date. You know what I mean? Like when that first came out, like the song like "Can You Feel My Heart" or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that had a ton of different like synthesizer stuff in it, and that was their like most successful song at the
Yeah.
time. Um, but it's also like they, to your point before, like they had producers who were helping them. Like they had David Bennett who kind of shapes their sound. We talked to David Bennett himself like at that point, and he was saying that like he was approaching a bunch of really heavy bands and saying like, hey, like I want to like make you more commercial in a sense.
And create the sound that can blow up, and it would be like kind of the David Bendith movement. Remember he was telling us about that, which was cool. Like
Yeah.
Art of Dying. Remember Art of Dying? Remember that they were kind of like they had that Hinder Saving Abel sound. Remember he told
Yeah.
us, I'm not doing that. We're not doing that sound in my studio. And he had them like play like heavier stuff. And we were like, this is Art of Dying? This is crazy.
Yeah.
And he like of a Mice and Men. Like a Mice and Men was in that list, like you were mentioning earlier. All the bands that have changed. Of Mice and Men was hardcore back in the day, but they adapted to the newer stuff, and that was Bendith influence. He kind of gave them a little bit more of a rock edge, but they still incorporated that nostalgic, heavy sound at the same time. So it comes down. Balance is key here. That is the ultimate theme of everything we're talking about, essentially.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it makes sense too, because not to get all philosophical, or whatever, but life is balance. You have to be able to take the old and the new and kind of, meet somewhere in the middle.
Hmm.
Because like, I'll like talk about like a job or something like that. Like, like you have people who are your age or maybe a little bit older and you're kind of on the same wavelength, and you have the younger crowd, and like they have different ideas and different perspectives or whatever, but you still need to meet somewhere in the middle, and you
Yeah.
need to like be able to adapt. And I feel like that's just life. It's just you need to be able to adapt to things and not get stuck in a headspace, because if you get stuck in a headspace, you might as well just say forget it, honestly. Like obviously there's the bands out there, like Metallica or something like that, where like they tried to do
Saint
they tried
Anger.
to do the new metal thing, the Saint Anger.
Right.
Didn't really work for them. People didn't like it.
I mean,
Some people do like it. Brendan loves it.
well,
But at the same time, like their roots is what people like, because at the time when they came out, that was like groundbreaking, and that
well, it's
that
like
makes sense.
it's like the Black Album. They went more commercial, and a lot of people didn't like them, but
Mhm.
they didn't like the route, the way they were going with like Nothing Else Matters and something like that. But I mean, they kept it really heavy, not thrashy, but they was still heavy.
Yeah. And like and Metallica and all the older bands out there, even bands who are now older bands who we grew up with, like Disturbed or something like that, or Korn, or whatever. Like they're not necessarily old, but they're like within the genre that we were listening to when we were growing up. People who are in their 30s at this point. Um, and like they have stuck with the roots. I mean, I feel like Korn has always been interesting in the fact that they have had those the effects that they were really into, which
Hmm.
is interesting in itself, because yes, you can do that too. You can go down that road as well, like, and have like interesting effects on like your guitars or whatever. Like I don't even know what they used on some of that stuff, but it was interesting. It was ear candy.
It's like a
And
lot
I
of
feel like
chorus.
Yeah, it's like chorus, flanger, phasing,
Delay.
whatever, delay, yeah, all that kind of stuff. But it's ear candy in the end, and I feel like the thing that catches the audience is sometimes that ear candy.
I mean, we
Enzo,
already got the eye
being one
candy.
of the youngest members in our band, what do you think about music as far as like how it's like evolved?
Pretty good. I honestly I don't even know how to answer that, but I mean um how like metal and like rock have evolved, in my opinion, has been pretty cool. I like, I, of course, being the antecedent to Brendan, I like a lot of Megadeth's stuff, and
Boo.
seeing them evolve as the kings of thrash as they are. Honestly, seeing them evolve has been pretty cool. Like Dave Mustaine getting a more like heavier sound, like in the band, has been cool. Like seeing them actually adapt to like the new sound of metal is really cool for a band that's been around since like the 80s. So them getting that like grittier sound and having still pushing the boundaries today on how good like you can make a guitar solo has been pretty cool in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, just everything, at least in this genre, has just gotten heavier and just very low tunings. But you still got the old stuff. Now you got the new stuff. It's been pretty cool.
What I find interesting is that you introduced me to that boy what thing.
Oh yeah.
You like that.
Yeah, he is incredible. Plan Z is amazing.
Right. Yeah, and it is amazing. So like taking that and also, Megadeth and like meeting somewhere in the middle, like what do you feel about the evolution of music in the sense of, like synthesizers and stuff like that?
I mean, it's cool. Like seeing, like honestly, a cool example of something like this is, and I think what really changed the game in like the metal and hard rock genre is the Doom soundtrack. And I feel like that gets super slept on by so many
Yeah.
people.
Mick Gordon.
Like Doom the movie?
No, Mick Gordon soundtrack, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know this one.
Yeah, that honestly, ever since that came out, I think metal like changed. I think that's a huge changing point for metal. It was just so it's I don't know, it's like the perfect encapsulation of like the next stage of metal before it even happened. And yeah, I mean, Mick Gordon's a genius, and yeah, I mean, most of what's been in that has really just carried over to just so many bands, and that sound is very well known now. But yeah, I think that was a huge turning point for metal that I don't think a lot of people realize.
And that's interesting because that was all based off of video game soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
And like, but like all these avenues, that you're interested in is like it's not necessarily commercial, like in the least. I mean, like Boy What is like a parody of, SpongeBob, which is funny in itself, but it's also like so balls to the wall, like heavy at some points. I mean, you're just like, wow, that kicks so much ass. And Doom is just like straight up like heavy stuff.
I
But like
pending Doom for a minute.
no, like the Doom video game soundtrack.
Got it.
It's great. You guys have to look that up if you haven't. It's so heavy. It's like all really low tune stuff, which is what Enzo was talking about too. That's another thing too, is like tuning has become a lot like different these days too. Like we started off in C sharp, B, which it was pretty low for the time, I feel like. And now we're in drop A, uh, G for a lot of stuff too.
Yeah.
And that's a stylistic move as well. It's like it's also where I feel like we listened to like some stuff that we liked and we were like, hey, that sounds good. So like it's a trend. All of it is kind of a trend. Um, Not saying you have to follow a trend to be a specific way, but I feel like it's a path, and I feel like it's definitely an easier one to cross when you hear the results of other people.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think. We were listening to some bands that had the drop A stuff. Um, and they were like, "Oh man, that's heavy, baritone guitars and everything." We're like, "Oh, that's sick." I think even like Taproot stuff, like when they were in Victory, they dropped some stuff, and they're like, Mike at the time when he was playing with them, it's like it was all drop A. We're like, really? It was really heavy, so I think that kind of helped kick it. I mean, there's obviously other things, but other bands that influenced that, but definitely
Well,
heavy.
Stained was one of them. Mike
Yeah,
Mushock, he came out with his baritone, which I have had at least 3 models of and sold all of them, unfortunately. But um, they he had drop A to drop G like around the time where things were, that was pretty much unheard of. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Do you know how he did that?
No.
So I remember this article I read in Guitar Player when I was in like high school. So they didn't make that thick of strings for guitars. So his
Mhm.
top string was the high string of a bass, and he had to drill out the tuning peg
Mhm.
to fit the string in, and he had to like make the nut bigger and everything. But
Yeah.
that's wild.
yeah, so
Well,
he used the bass string.
it is and it isn't, because I mean that's what I did before I started doing the Evertune stuff. Is I would use these crazy gauge strings to
Mhm.
achieve the low tunings, and I drilled out a lot of tuning peg holes, whatever, so that I could like fit these. I think so. The strings that I've had, probably the lowest, the one I use now is like a 72 is the lowest, but I've gone all the way down to 80, which
Wow.
is it's pretty thick. It's a thick boy. You could get down to like, I think like drop like E with those kind of strings. But like, yeah, I mean, that's crazy, because at that time that was probably like pretty unheard of, using bass strings or whatever to achieve those tunings. Because I'm sure that they didn't have baritone strings that were like that gauge back then.
That's just thinking about that is just crazy. That whole process. Yeah. Bass string.
But yeah, it's funny because I'm
So
on
crazy.
this forum called Baritone Obsessed, which is it's like a Facebook group. It's gone a little downhill since it first started, but like
Since
all
you
these people
started,
are no first when I first got on it, like there was this guy who was running it, and he was the one who really started all the baritone stuff up, as far as like getting it like well known and whatever. He's called the Bun. um and he left, but now there's a bunch of like newbies or whatever who is still like asking like, oh, what gauge should I use for like this guitar to get this tuning, which is completely a stylistic kind of thing. But there's all these people who are still trying to use
Right.
really really thick strings to get low tunings.
use this bass string right here. This will be perfect for your guitar.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Some
mean, this,
people do that. Some people actually use bass strings to achieve that still. So, I mean, he probably was one of the pioneers of doing that, Mike Mushok.
Yeah, crazy, man. A New Englander too to boot.
Yeah.
yeah. We're at
They
an hour
were.
15, kids.
Oh damn. All right, so we do the little
I don't know. Do
breaking
we have
point.
time?
I'm gonna do riff of the week. I'm gonna set on the top 5 because I feel like I don't have business being in the top 5 for this topic, and I always lose anyway. So
Yeah, 'cause
I'll
I'm the champ. I'm the champ.
do riff of the week. If you want me to go for riff of the week quickly, and I'll sit out and watch you guys battle it out on top 5, I'll do that.
I have no idea what this is.
Riff of the week.
All right, you got to take your
Yeah.
shirt
Oh,
off,
my voice.
and then
No, it's just any song or a certain riff of a song of this week that you think was pretty awesome.
you want to kick off,
Any
Jeremy?
song?
Yeah.
I don't
Any-
know songs by name, so I'm automatically gonna lose.
I just looked up Spotify.
You cheated.
I was like, oh, what's a good song that I was listening to this week? Yep, I remember now. You want to start off, Dave?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna go with "Awaken" by Breaking Benjamin. Come on, they're giving the fans what they want to hear. The song is solid. That cool little guitar part, Enzo, that you identified in the bridge. There's some heavy parts in it. Good on them. They're coming back after what 6-7 years of being out of dropping a song. So I'm gonna go with that. I really dig in what this song is doing. I look forward to hearing the other tunes that are gonna come out from them. So I'm going with "Awaken" from Breaking Benjamin.
Okay.
All right. Better Off Alone from Dead Eyes.
Oh yeah.
I just heard that one.
It's their newest song. They just got signed to a new label. I forget what that is, but
Vogue
what is
Records.
it? In
In
Vogue.
Vogue.
Congratulations to Dead Eyes. They have a very it's a heavy tune that has a very melodic, sick chorus to it. And I dig it.
Hey, Enzo, you frozen?
The Wheel of Death.
Nod.
Blink
All
if
right, I guess I'll.
you need help.
I guess I'll go then. Makeshift Harmony by Monuments.
Oh.
And it's funny too because I remember like he has that like crazy little vocal thing in the chorus for white lies. But oh, there he goes.
Wheel of
But
Death.
he I heard them play it live. And he to introduce the song, he goes, "This is my Mariah Carey song." I thought it was pretty funny because he goes crazy with the vocals. But yeah, she's coming soon, Mariah Carey. I can already,
so
I can
speaking
already
of
hear
Mariah
her.
Carey, I just saw something that she formed. She tried to form a grunge record in the 1990s.
What?
I literally just saw that on Facebook. I don't know if it's true. I saw something that had something to do with that, though.
Crazy, man.
Crazy.
I
Mariah
wish.
Carey.
I want to hear that.
Enzo, you got a song of the week or riff of the week?
Yes, I do. You'll
If
like
it's Megadeth, I'm gonna kick you right off of this.
it is. It is. No, it's by Mega Dave. That's what it is. It's. It is Night Stalkers by Megadeth.
Sorry, we're losing you. Did I mute you? Oh no.
Wow.
Doesn't want to hear
The
the
hate.
truth, you know. Yeah.
Podcast hazing.
All
Nice.
right.
Thanks, guys. All right.
I pressed play for that the rock music, but it's not doing anything. Maybe we'll play in post. But
Edit and post.
yeah. All right.
That was great.
Yeah, we did an hour and 20 minutes out of nowhere.
Yeah, man. Nice. A lot of content.
Yeah.
You got to get a cover photo for us so you can put it on the YouTube cover.
Yeah. I'm not going to use any of that. I'm going to find the most embarrassing photos of everybody and use
I
it.
think you will. I will.
All right.
Cool. Thanks for coming on, guys. It was great to have the full group, a full band podcast tonight. Love it.
Yeah, wow.
Wow.
More often.
Wow.
All right. See you, kids.
All right, guys.
All right, kids.
Soon. Check your
Peace.
phones. A lot of booster stuff coming up. Check them for tomorrow.
Yeah. Peace.
Peace.
All right.